This week, true crime takes center stage as Madison Opera presents the world premiere of Everlasting Fate by Madison composer Scott Gendel. Based on the true story of the 1897 Greenbrier ghost, Everlasting Fate is a ghost story, a thrilling drama, and an all-American opera. Don't miss your chance to see it on February 13th and 15th in the Capitol Theater. Tickets at madisonopera.org. Our local farmers are getting ready for the growing season ahead, and now is the time to consider signing up for a CSA, or a community-supported agriculture share. A CSA share is like a subscription box to the freshest, most flavorful food your local farm has to offer. When you join a CSA, you invest in the farm at the start of the season, and in return, receive a share of the harvest throughout the growing season. Find your farm today using FairShare's interactive farm search map at csacoalition.org/farm-search. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about.
Happy Friday, Madison. We've made it to the end of the week, which can only mean one thing. It's time for the Friday News Roundup. I'm executive producer Haley Sperling, sitting in for Bianca Martin, and today we are diving into a host of stories surrounding local restaurants, the Madison Police, child labor laws, and we'll top it all off with some Valentine's Day recommendations. But before we get into that, I've actually got a very special announcement. Tomorrow and every Saturday from here on out, you're going to see a little something extra in your podcast feed. CityCast is launching a new show. It's called Your City Could Be Better, because if we're being real, Madison could be better. Our CityCast CEO, David Plotz, is sitting down every week with different hosts and producers from across the CityCast network. And spoiler alert, you'll hear Bianca on the show very, very soon. David and his guests are going to be talking about the things that our cities are trying as we grow and change, what cities are doing right and wrong, the weird things they're trying, and the surprising successes. The first episode is already out now, right now, on YouTube and in the Your City Could Be Better podcast feed. Or just check back here tomorrow on the CityCast Madison feed. We'll be dropping the latest episode every Saturday. So go check out Your City Could Be Better wherever you get your podcasts and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. All right, let's bring in the rest of the team. Joining me today is our newsletter editor, Rob Thomas. Hello, Rob. Happy almost Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Eve, Haley.
Valentine's Eve. I love that. And Jade Isiri Ramos. Hello, Jade. Are you feeling the love?
It's Friday the 13th over here in this house.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
It only happens once every 7 years.
That is the best answer you could give me, Jade. My home is also a Friday the 13th home, a horror movie home. You can bet. Actually, I will say it's a little bit of each. My friends and I watch the My Bloody Valentine's movies whenever we can on Valentine's Day, and it's especially great when it happens on Friday the 13th.
It's perfect.
It's great. I am kicking us off this week with a story that's bringing up a lot of feelings of sadness and hope and more. So we're going to dive right into that. Earlier this week, a post began circulating on Facebook saying that the owner of the popular downtown restaurant, Senor Machete's, had been detained by immigration authorities at O'Hare Airport while on his way back home from a trip to Mexico. The Wisconsin State Journal confirmed this via Alder Mike Verveer, who represents the downtown district, and he said that Noel Quintana was detained on January 27th. Verveer says that Quintana is not a U.S. citizen, but has long had a permanent resident card, aka a green card, which allows him to live and work in the U.S. Records show that he's currently being held at a facility in Indiana. So this is feeling a lot. It's feeling very heavy. There is some good news here. Friends of Quintana and his family have already started 2 GoFundMes, which combined have raised over $33,000 to help the family out so far. And in addition to those fundraisers, the restaurant is also hosting a fundraising event tonight from 4:30 to 9 p.m. There will be food, drinks, snacks, and dinner over at the restaurant at 121 East Main Street, right off the Capitol Square. Jade, Rob, I know you guys saw this news. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of emotions to unpack with this one. What have you guys been feeling? How did this story strike you?
Yeah, Haley, I had a friend share this with me, the fundraiser, because he both was like, we should go to this, and also you should make sure that the CityCast Madison audience knows about this. And the tension, I think, is very scary, and thinking about this impacting someone in our community is very scary. But I think the ability to have some sort of action and to support the people who are impacted by it is, I think, at the heart of this, at this like moment in Madison.
Yeah, it's enraging. I mean, he's been in the country since he moved here at the age of 16 to go to school and has been here legally ever since. He did everything right. And, to have him snapped up like this, I mean, small mercies, at least they know where he is. He's in a facility in Indiana. And like you say, Jade, it's helpful to at least have something to do when you hear news like that, some little way you can help.
Yeah, that action, I think, is really getting people going. And I'm feeling the same way as you guys. It's just a roller coaster of emotions. And, we are just onlookers, right? We're not even the family. And I can't even imagine what they're going through. But I do take solace in the fact that the community has really rallied together. There is a lot of hope there. Like I said, over $30,000 raised between those two GoFundMes. And now the fundraiser happening again tonight. And it also, I think, has really just reminded me that these stories are not far away. It is not an if it happens to someone it is when. And it is important that we all take care of each other in these times because there's a lot of fear going around. And there's a lot of fear surrounding this increased immigration enforcement. And in the midst of all this, the Madison Police Department has actually announced that they're making some changes in effort to be a little bit more transparent about their practices. MPD says recently they've been getting a lot of questions about how people can tell the differences between their unmarked vehicles and officers and those from other agencies. So I want to break down a little bit about what Police Chief John Patterson has said and what these new changes are. So starting with the officers, most MPD officers wear police uniforms, those military style blue uniforms. They're not super hard to identify. They look like cops. But there are some employees, however, who do wear plain clothes, like detectives, supervisors, and whatnot. But a new directive from MPD now instructs those employees, the one who do wear plain clothes, to also wear a jacket that either has that MPD patch on it or clothing items with the words Madison Police on them. That is a new directive that is taking effect immediately. And so now transitioning over to vehicle identification, MPD has instituted a new change where all unmarked vehicles will now have a special place card inside the windshield that says, quote, official Madison Police vehicle. And that's written in both English and Spanish. And of course, Madison squad cars are also pretty easily identifiable by the fact that they say Madison Police across the side. But, Madison Police, they've got a lot of unmarked cars, sedans, SUVs, pickup trucks, minivans, whatnot. And now you will be able to know if you're ever concerned if this is an MPD vehicle or not by seeing in the windshield whether or not it's got this place card there. So what do you guys think of these changes? How's that sitting with you?
I think it's great. One of the things that I've been hearing a lot about in Minneapolis is just sort of the chaos that happens when these unmarked vehicles sort of like swarm folks and cause a lot of chaos on the roads. And having Madison Police unmarked vehicles marked, I think will be helpful in understanding who people are when you're being pulled over or even if you just, come across these cars. I would love if all unmarked cars had a placard stating who they were.
I did see Dane County Sheriffs are also doing the same thing. At least they posted a video on social media identifying here's our uniforms, here's what we wear. Yeah, I think it's great and proactive, seeing what we're seeing in Minneapolis. In the video that Police Chief Patterson posted, he said, if you're pulled over and if you have any confusion over who's pulling you over, call 911. And we've seen other examples of this, officials in Madison trying to get out ahead of what might be coming to Madison or just making people feel a little bit more secure that, that they're on top of this and they're not going to be caught by surprise.
Yeah, I think that's huge, right? Just the proactive nature of these steps and the fact that they are trying to meet people where they are. Like you said, Rob, the Dane County Sheriff's Office and Madison Police, they both posted about this on their social media, right? Like we found this story via Instagram. So I think it's really great that they are trying to meet people where they are, trying to be transparent, trying to say like, all right, we're going to take a step here for you. Also, we've seen what happens in Minneapolis to some of these unmarked cars. I mean, they're getting vandalized. People are literally throwing dildos at them. I think it's so funny. And I'm sure police in Madison don't want that happening. Not saying it is, but I digress. So lots of things with this story. But before we dive into any more news, let's take a quick break. We are back. And Jade, you've got a story about Burger King. What's going on?
I do have a story about Burger King, and I'm highly invested, honestly, after digging into this story. So at the end of last week, the news broke that a company that owns more than 100 Burger Kings in Wisconsin, including 7 here in the Madison area, has been accused of more than 1,600 child labor law violations, affecting more than 600 Wisconsin teenagers during a 2-year span between 2023 and 2025. Now, I'm going to break this all down in a second and what's going on with this company, Cave Enterprises, who are accused of these violations. But I want to ask both of you, did you have jobs as teenagers?
I worked as like a camp counselor. So whatever child labor laws exist do not apply at camp, right?
Well, I did work at a McDonald's for 5 months, and so I feel solidarity with the Burger King workers here. I was 16. I don't remember any underage people working there, but, get your free $3 lunch on your break. And what I remember is they were they had very strict policies and they stuck to them. It wasn't slapdash at all. It was definitely a corporate affair.
I'm glad that you mentioned that you were 16, because that age cutoff is like really huge in this story.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think today whether or not my first job I got when I was 16 or if I got it when I was 15. And I think I could drive myself. So I'm pretty sure I was 16, which means, again, I was sort of at that cutoff of where these child labor laws really come in effect. So let me break down the child labor laws in Wisconsin for you. In most cases, minors have to be at least 14 years old to work. There are certain sectors and jobs where kids as long as 12 can work, but they're very specific. These are things like working in agriculture, as a sideline official at a football game, in their school's cafeteria, or working directly with like their parents, those sort of things. Things that you're like, yeah, that's sort of gray zone, go ahead, right? But for kids who are 15 and younger, in most cases, they need a work permit. This permit establishes how old the child is, and it ensures that the employee, the employer, and the employee's parents all know what the laws are for working as a minor. And they are: any worker under 18 years old is not allowed to work for more than 6 hours without a 30-minute unpaid, duty-free meal break. That means you're off the clock for 30 minutes. You can leave. You can't even be asked to like change the toilet paper in the bathroom. You are truly off the clock for 30 minutes if you're working for 6 hours or more. Workers who are 14 and 15 have pretty strict rules on how long they can work. On school days, they are only allowed to work for 3 hours, and on non-school days, they can work up to 8 hours. During the school year, they're also only allowed to work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And in the summers, they can work from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Minors over 16 can work as much as they want, as long as they and their employer agree. And there's no stipulations from the state of Wisconsin. Are you guys still with me? Any questions on these rules?
Well, one question I have, and maybe you can answer, is like, do minors know all this? Like, how are they informed of their rights?
So that's the permit.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So you get a work permit, and then you will receive information about your rights, right? That you can only work for 3 hours a day on school days, and that it has to be within these hours, which is why the permit, the state believes, is important here.
Yeah, this makes sense. Okay, so it's really just like there are a lot of rules if you're under 16, and between 16 to 18, it's a little bit more relaxed. There's still a lot of rules.
Yeah, exactly. You have sort of in the workforce, a 16-year-old is more of an adult than a 14 and a 15-year-old, which makes sense. 16-year-olds are allowed to drive, you know? Moving back to the Burger King case, so the Department of Workforce Development, or DWD, is accusing Cave Enterprises, who owns the Burger King franchises, of more than 1,600 violations. So they found that nearly 600 kids between 14 and 15 were allowed to work without a child labor permit. Hundreds of them worked outside those allowed hours, and 627 minors worked shifts of 6 hours or more without taking that state-mandated meal break. The franchisee, Cave Enterprises, is now required to pay more than $200,000 in unpaid wages. That's specifically to employees. And then to the state, they're being charged a penalty of more than $800,000. So all in all, $1 million is hitting Cave Enterprises. At this point, Cave Enterprises has not spoken publicly about this situation, and so we're only hearing the state side at this point. And in reporting from both the Wisconsin Examiner and WPR, they reached out to Cave Enterprises for comment, but did not hear back. Rob, I know that the story made the newsletter. Did you have any big takeaways or thoughts from it?
Well, yeah, the Department of Workforce Development said it's like the biggest case of child labor violations they've uncovered in like recent history. So I know I'm pun intended, but it's a real whopper of a case.
There it is.
That was incredibly pun intended, Rob.
Okay, maybe a little bit, yeah. But yeah, just to break it, like that $800,000 fine, that's $500 per violation. So that's a lot of violations, right? So yeah, it's a big case.
It's a big case, and I want to reiterate that it's just a 2-year-long time span that they were looking at. So like $1 million basically of violations in just 2 years. And a final note on this story, we don't know where these violations were taking place, like at which exact Burger King this happened, or, you know, if one Burger King had more violations than others. However, while I was doing my research, I was on Reddit, as I am one to do, specifically the Madison subreddit, and people were talking about this story. A Reddit user, NoProfessional6841, said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that they used to work at a Southeast Madison location, and they can confirm that there were kids working without permits, breaks, and even working up to 12-hour shifts. And this person says that that's just a needle in a haystack. They claim that they were given checks that were short, and all in all, they had a terrible experience and feel bad for the people who are still there. Granted, this is an anonymous person on Reddit, but I do tend to believe the workers.
I think these allegations, too, are just kind of staggering in the fact that, like, yeah, this is breaking child labor laws, but even an adult wouldn't want to work 12 hours without a lunch break or without a meal break or being shorted on a check. And, you know, like you said, Rob, how do these kids know that they have these rights? And that's through the permits. And if these kids didn't have their permits, then they didn't know their rights. Like, there's just so much to this. And like you said, Jade, this is only 2 years. I can only imagine how much bigger this is. And I'm curious to know if it's going to get bigger, right? Like, is this just the tip of the iceberg? Is there another larger part to this investigation that we're going to see uncovered in the coming days, months, years? I'm waiting.
And is this an aberration, or is this happening at other fast food restaurants? I mean, you know, staffing issues in the restaurant industry right now are a huge problem. So the size of the case puts other restaurants on notice, maybe, to adhere to those child labor laws.
I was thinking the exact same thing as I was looking into this, just that this is a Burger King franchisee who owns more than 100 franchises in Wisconsin alone. And I think the flags were raising for the Department of Workforce Development because people were complaining. And so there were lots and lots of complaints. And then they followed up and did this investigation. I imagine there are plenty of employers who are violating child labor laws, but are smaller, and their employees, there's fewer employees. And so hopefully maybe this raises awareness to those employers and those employees that it's serious. You need to be following these child labor laws. And if you have someone working for you who's 14 or 15, they need to have a permit to be working for you.
My heart goes out to them and all of the high schoolers who run the Culvers that I rely so heavily on.
But also, when I was 16 and I had no rent, I had so much money. Like, I've never been more rich than when I was 16 with a job. So, like, also, I hope people are making their bag.
Make your money, kids. Get employed. Make sure you know your workers' rights.
Yes.
I love it. Jade, thank you for bringing us this story. We've got another story to get into, but before we do, let's take a quick break. All right, we are back and we're talking about love because it's almost Valentine's Day Eve, as Rob has reminded us. Tell us more.
Yeah, Saturday is Valentine's Day. Jade, you just had your heart-shaped glasses on earlier. Why did you take them off?
It's hard to see with the pink lenses.
They're not prescription. They're not prescription.
Yeah.
So who's into Valentine's Day and who isn't?
I like it as the resident singleton on this podcast. I guess I'll speak for the lonely hearts here, but I love the idea. I had a Palentine's Day celebration with my friends where we made each other Valentine's cards and just like got together and had some good food and enjoyed each other's company. I love love. Why not?
I also love love, and I don't really celebrate Valentine's Day, mostly because it's like it happens so fast. It's like suddenly it's Valentine's Day, and I don't know. I'm buying treats for my husband all the time, so I don't know why I need to buy him treats specifically on Valentine's Day.
It can be a lot of pressure, especially when it's one day like that. Like, I'm all about candy and chocolates and flowers, but like I would not go to a restaurant on Valentine's Day. I would go to a Burger King on Valentine's Day, even if they were following child labor laws. So and I'll get into this, but like I like how people are like sort of expanding the definitions of it, like doing things that are not on Valentine's Day, doing things like Palentine's Day, or a friend of mine does a Galentine's Day every year. So like, it's not just the narrow definition of Valentine's Day. There's lots to do. And so if you're the sort of hearty romantic soul that wants to take your sweetie out on Valentine's Day, there's lots going on. I would just, as I said, go on the restaurant's website and check out reservations. And there is no shame in going out tonight or Sunday or next week. It's the thought that counts. And it's probably a lot less pressure than going out on Saturday itself. But if you're looking for stuff to do besides going out to eat, Madison Shakespeare Company has its annual collection of love monologues from classic plays called A Valentine's Affair. And will be running at the Bartell through February 15th. They'll perform excerpts from like Romeo and Juliet and Cyrano, and just maybe don't check and see how those plays turn out. Just kind of focus on the monologue and the love. And yeah. And in that vein, there's a space in Verona called Art House 360 where Theater Lila and Barrio Dance are collaborating on this very special kind of dance theater hybrid. It's called A Love Letter, celebrating love in all its forms. That runs through February 15th. Over at Lola's on the north side, one of our favorite strip mall bars, the DJs are getting into the spirit. They're having Patsy Cline Heartbreak tunes from 5 to 8 p.m. And then our friend DJ Nick Nice, who's been on the pod, he's going to be playing a Galentine's Day playlist of girls' anthems late into the night. Lola's also has special food and drink specials, including one app that's shareable pork and crab dumplings that they're calling Crabs for Two.
That's a choice.
It's a choice. Might want to get that checked out. And then another place I'd like to go, which is a 7 Acre Dairy down in Paola. They have a 4-course menu. They're calling Butter Lovers Make Better Lovers. I just kind of like that name. And they're sold out for Saturday, but they still have plenty of openings Friday and Sunday. And the thing I think is really cool and different is happening at Garver Feed Mill all day on Saturday. Feline Studios is having its annual community iron pour, and it's happening all day. They're going to melt down over 2,000 pounds of gray iron and pour it into sand molds that are created by the public. And so it's like an all-day event where if you get there early, you can sort of carve out your own sand molds, hang out at the heated outdoor bar, and then gather to watch the big pour in the evening. Has anybody ever done that? That sounds like super cool.
I've never been, but it sounds awesome. We love the folks at Garver. They're doing so many just kind of out of the box events these days. I feel like this is really cool. When do you ever get the chance to see iron poured?
Yeah.
I cannot name an occasion.
I did one of those things where you like hold your person's hand and put it in a mold and then you pour plaster in it.
Hot iron.
Hot iron. No, very different plaster. And I think it was fun. So I imagine doing something like this, which is more community oriented. And it sounds really cool.
Yeah, and great for families and, couples and whoever just getting together. It sounds like a really fun thing. But, maybe you're not feeling Valentine's Day this year, and you're certainly not alone. I wrote an article for the CityCast Madison newsletter about all the anti-Valentine's Day events going on this weekend in Madison. That includes this comedy show called Best Date, Worst Date that's happening at the Forward Club at Bree Stevens Field on February 14th. And it's a show where comedians will talk about their, as it says, their best dates and then their absolute biggest dating disasters, which sounds like a lot of fun. There's a Madison jazz collective called Combo Noir that's doing a show called To Hell with Love at North Street Cabaret, which is sort of like, I think, torch songs to kind of drown your sorrows in a good cold martini. And then Monday, the Rigby does these themed karaoke nights on Mondays, and Monday night is breakup songs. So if you can do Let It Go, or if you can do Someone Like You, an Adele song, get your pipes ready and go and belt it out. So feel the love or don't feel the love. It's totally up to you.
And this year we have the Lily Allen breakup album. Best breakup album, I think, in decades.
Yeah.
Yes, we do, Jade. Yes, we do. Go stream West End Girl by Lily Allen.
I sense a duet coming to the Rigby on Monday.
I love these shout outs. And I also want to give a shout out to CityCast Nashville. They just dropped a show that gives some of Nashville's dating horror stories. And I got to lend my voice to that one to read one of the listener submitted dates, and it was bad. So bad in a good way, bad in a bad way. Go check that one out if you want to feel better or worse about the dating pool here in Madison.
Awesome.
So yes.
I feel like we need to put a pin in that to make sure we do that next year. So if you have bad dating stories, call in, maybe January 20th next year.
There is so much love in the air. I can feel it right here in this podcast through our screens. And you know what? We've got even more love to share because it's time for neighborhood shoutouts. These shoutouts come to us from our CityCast Madison neighbors, the folks who support us through membership. Jade, what's our first neighborhood shoutout? Who's it from?
Yeah, Nikki J says Table Wine on Atwood is a local woman-owned / run wine shop that has great bottles, fantastic classes and tastings, and a really knowledgeable staff that will help you pick out an amazing bottle of wine at a super reasonable price. Their garden is also a perfect place for a glass with friends when the weather is nice. This is the second time Table Wine has got a shout out, and it's warranted. I genuinely like Table Wine quite a bit.
At least the second time. I was going to say like 2 or 3, right? And I love that Nikki shouted out the garden because that's what I've been saying. Their garden is this hidden gem right on the east side that is so beautiful when the weather is nice. And I can imagine that they're going to be busy this weekend with Valentine's Day coming up. Our next shout out here is from Abby B, who says that she would like to encourage folks to take a trip to New Glarus and visit her new shop while you're there. It's called Alpenhaus Market and offers a collection of vintage home decor along with artisan goods. With 20 plus shops and restaurants within a few walkable blocks, New Glarus is a great day trip to take from Madison to help beat the winter blues. Y'all know I am a sucker for anything vintage, especially home decor, so I am super into this one. Abby B, thank you so much for sharing.
I love a reason to go to New Glarus.
Yeah, go to Canner Inn for dinner after a day of vintage shopping. Sounds like a pretty good trip.
Rob, you just planned my weekend getaway.
Janet C. wanted to shout out the Madison Hash House Harriers, who call themselves, quote, a drinking club with a running problem. They provide exercise and camaraderie year-round with runs every Saturday. Part run, part puzzle, part social club. It's a great way to get active. These guys have been around for a while because I know a couple of friends who were Harriers when I was younger. So that's great.
Part puzzles got me puzzled.
Yeah. Is it like you got to figure out the route, do you think? Or
maybe.
I'm curious. Yeah.
There's a lot to discover here. We need more information.
Yeah.
Maybe Jade will get out there, go on a run, do a puzzle, have a drink. No running, Jade says. Well, I love our shout outs, and we've got some shout outs to give too, because we've got some new neighbors to thank. These shout outs are for you guys. Thank you, Mary W., Mary M., Audrey S., Suzanne S., and Andrew G. Thank you guys so much for supporting our work. It really, really means so much to us. And if you want to give a shout out here on CityCast Madison and get a shout out too, I promise you it is quite easy to do. Just head to membership.citycast.fm. Your support helps our team of local journalists tell our city's stories. Plus, it comes with some perks. In addition to these shout-outs, CityCast Madison neighbors also get an exclusive events newsletter, ad-free podcast listening, and invites to members-only events. We're actually planning one for next month, so stay tuned, y'all, and get excited. Again, that is membership.citycast.fm. Sign up, become a neighbor today.
And I just want to say, it was a big week for CityCast Madison. Our newsletter changed its name, and I think we were all had feelings about losing the title Madison Minutes. But the 5 of you who stepped up and said, I'm becoming a member this week, I feel really, really helped us transition into that and be like, yeah, people, they're not even phased. They know that it's still good stuff coming to them.
We got nothing but love and positivity about it, which was fantastic.
It's a lot of feelings for me. Thank you for bringing that one up, Jade. You guys know Madison Minutes is my baby, but we are Team CityCast Madison. I'm glad that our brand can be fully aligned. Like you said, it is still the same great newsletter that you guys know and love. So check it out. It's just called CityCast Madison these days. So we've got one more story to share with a whole lot of love in it. Jade, take it away.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This story almost didn't happen because I got distracted by watching the Super Bowl halftime show, which is good. This is the first time that I watched the Super Bowl halftime show for you, the listeners of this Friday News Roundup.
Thank you for doing the Lord's work for us, Jade.
Yeah, honestly, I think that I get so anti-NFL by this time of the year that I just sort of rule off the Super Bowl all in all. But I'm very happy that I watched Bad Bunny's performance, which included a handful of songs from his most recent album, which has Madison ties, specifically featuring contributions from Jorel Melendez-Badillo, who is a professor and historian of Puerto Rico at UW-Madison. He collaborated with Bad Bunny on the album to provide commentary on the island's history, and there's a visual piece on YouTube if you watch the album there. There's a Great Tone Madison piece that we'll link to in the show notes about that collaboration as well. This is your sign to watch a Super Bowl halftime show if you haven't. Watch it again or read that Tone Madison piece because it was really cool. And it's cool to see a Madison influence on something that's getting a lot of national acclaim.
We watched the halftime show again at my Palentine's Day event, and it was loved by all.
No, and a lot of that history is baked into that halftime show. I thought it was the best halftime show I've ever seen. And it's so cool that a Madison historian was, inspired so much of that.
So many Easter eggs in that show. Definitely check it out. Definitely check out that Tone piece. Thank you for bringing that, Jade. And thank you guys both for rounding up the news with me this week. I should give a note that we are going to be off on Monday for President's Day. So no podcast, no newsletter. But if you miss us, there's a podcast for that. Remember to check out the Your City Could Be Better show with David Plotz. The first episode is out now. It has its own feed, and episodes will also be dropped in the CityCast Madison feed on Saturday as well. So check it out. Tell us what you think. Let us know. And be sure to tune in when Bianca's on the show, which is coming up soon. Alrighty, Rob Thomas, thank you so much for joining us this week. Happy Valentine's Day Eve.
Happy Palentine's Day, Haley.
Thank you. And Jade Isiri Ramos.
Thanks, Haley.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm executive producer Haley Sperling. Bianca Martin is your host. We're produced by Jade Isiri Ramos with help this week from Elizabeth Kama and Laura Satsui. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen, with additional music this week by April Moon, courtesy of Epidemic Sound and the Wisconsin Opera. Rob Thomas is our newsletter editor. You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to CityCast Madison, formerly known as Madison Minutes, online. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with someone who loves Valentine's Day, or someone who hates Valentine's Day, or someone you just want to show some love to. Help show the love, spread the podcast. We'll see you back here Tuesday morning with more news from around the city. Until then, thanks for listening and have a great weekend. And if you enjoyed today's show, sorry, my Charlie Barons is coming out, eh?